Oh, yeah.
And we are now live. It is Chris Simon and Luke, and we are here on the Phoenix RIA. We're also on my Facebook page, Luke's Facebook page, and Viking Real Estate YouTube's page. If you have any questions over the next half hour, we're running a little bit late. Luke had a friend in town, and when you see the old friends, you gotta say hi, right? So he had a friend.
Absolutely.
So running a little bit late today, but today we're talking about a little bit about the market and a little bit about flipping into this market. Now, I got a little update for you, right?
Let's hear it. I love these updates.
So, our market since last week at this time, when we were on the Red Room, we have about 17,800 actives. And now, if you remember last week, we were at about 17,300 actives. So that is only an increase of 500 actives
in a week
compared to what we've seen in the past. Like, I mean, we talked about, we were on just a vertical growth. We've gone from 4,200 actives to 17,800 actives in basically 3 months, right? So the fact that we've only gone up 500 actives in this last week means it's slowing down a little bit. People aren't jumping on the bandwagon to sell or getting the FOMO like they missed out. So just to give you an idea, that number, 17,000 actives isn't much more than what we looked at the fall of 2019, and everybody didn't think the sky was falling then. So you shouldn't think the sky is falling now. So. And I've actually gotten a reach out from my virtual assistants that people are canceling their cold callers and their VAs like mad. And you shouldn't do that. You should keep marketing. I mean, just because it's slowed down doesn't mean you should quit marketing. And actually, I was on a call yesterday with Noelle from Fidelity, and she actually is out there to help people build their business, right? That's what marketing reps do at Fidelity Title. They help you build their business. And she's like, her biggest ask right now is everybody's going to build some marketing. Well, marketing takes 90 to 120 days to get going.
Yeah.
So
especially before you see results. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, don't, if you're thinking about shutting down your marketing, maybe if you want to scale it back a little bit, but don't shut it down, right? Because it takes time to rebuild that up. So that's kind of my little market update. Inventory isn't growing as fast. 2019 numbers aren't much different than these numbers. I mean, as far as active listings go. So it's not. And actually, Fortune magazine does say that Phoenix will take a hit, but they don't. They released that they see us going down between 2% and 6% in the next 12 months. Well,
2% and 6%
in the next 12 months. But you got to remember that they're going to take an annual. They're going to take the annual growth. They're not going to see the spike that we had in this spring, and they're just going to take annual numbers, right? So if we lose the spike that we saw this spring, then it's going to be probably a level market this year, right?
Yeah, which I mean, from the beginning of the year to where we're at now, we were seeing, we obviously saw probably a 10% growth from January 1st to, up until 2 months ago.
Yeah,
an extra 10%, which is crazy. I think it's come back down now. But
now that's kind of gone away, and if you're out there hunting deals, you should be buying pretty good deals right now. I mean, what are you seeing? 30% below market, maybe even some 35% below markets out there right now. So.
Well, it's funny because as a flipper, what you're kind of noticing is that from January to, let's say, March or April, you were saying when people would send out deals, you'd see like a 450 buy price with like an ARV of like a 520, right, or like a 530, 540. What you're starting to see again. Yes, exactly. What you're starting to see again now is you're starting to see that 450 buy price with an ARV of 650, with an ARV of 675. So there's no doubt about it. They're starting to get deeper. Whether that's a wholesaler just kind of, pushing their ARVs a little bit too high or actually getting deeper deals now, it's starting to happen. So I think that that's kind of what we've been seeing the last couple weeks now. The previous months before, it was not quite that case. I think we had a lot of where the sellers were still expecting the price to be right here. And that's just, unfortunately, that just wasn't the case. That's not where the market was quite at yet. So I think that we're kind of starting to see where those numbers are going to start making sense again fairly soon here.
Yeah. Well, one thing about comping that I noticed today, I comped this house over in there, 85032 over there at like kind of 44th Street and Thunderbird. You saw one listed at 550 that sold for 620. You're not going to see that anymore.
Yeah, I know for sure. For sure, there's no doubt
and
about
as a
it.
matter of fact, that that they may have obviously overpaid, but they're not getting that money back, not anytime soon. So
No.
it's gone.
No, definitely not. So Chris, I think something we wanted to talk about today when we jumped on was obviously just like kind of flipping in this market. So, obviously it's one of those things where it is more difficult to kind of navigate your way through a flip in this market right now. Just because, again, like we just said, sellers still believe the price is here. Wholesalers and people that are in the investing, industry, they know that prices have come down, but sellers don't quite believe that quite yet. I think they're starting to come around. The more conversations that we're having with buyers, we're starting to hear more of that. Well, yeah, I think we might be heading into a recession. You're starting to hear more of that. Well, yeah, I know that the prices aren't quite where they used to be. Where, the previous couple months, that's not how it was. The previous couple months was, are you kidding me? This is the top of the market. I'm going to get this number for my home. And you're like, dude, like, yeah, maybe you were a couple months ago, but you're not getting that anymore. And so I think that it's starting to kind of become a realization to these sellers that's where the numbers are now. And so, you just have to kind of adjust what you're buying at. You have to adjust what you're doing, to those numbers. For us, a couple of the adjustments that we're making on the flipping side of things. We went from 20, we were flipping, we had 25 active flips going on as of 2 months ago.
And then how many hit the market, just so we get an idea of what?
Probably half have hit the market. So of those 25, we probably have had 12, maybe 10. I've got my board right here. Hold on. Probably somewhere between 10 and 12 have hit the market. We currently have 4 actives, and I would say of those, no, we probably have 7, maybe 11. I think we have 7 that are currently under contract and 4 that are active.
So that's a great. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So you had in the last couple of months, you've had 10 to 12 houses hit the market.
Yes.
And obviously, I follow you on Instagram, so I know you do a good job. Not everybody probably follows you on Instagram, but I've seen your remodels, and you make them look really nice. So out of the 10 to 12 that hit the market, 7 of them are under contract.
Yes.
So properties are still moving.
Yeah. Oh God, it's not even a question. They're still moving. It's just a matter of we're just not able to push them like we used to. We were for a while there. We were being able to push them and say, hey, you know what? Truly, I believe that the ARV, that the retail value of this property is, let's say, $700,000, right? If it's $700,000, we're gonna go ahead and throw it on at $725,000 and just see what happens. And 3 months ago, we were getting $730,000, $735,000, $740,000, $10,000 to $20,000 over. Where now, if a property we realistically think, say that property is still $700,000, we're actually going to list it at like $695,000. So we're going to list it a little bit under now, and just not going to try to push it. And what we're kind of seeing is maybe it's not going to go for $695,000, but maybe we're getting $680,000. And so that's, for us, it's still a good profit margin in there. We typically tend to run things as a 10% profit margin. So if something is going to be sold for $700,000, we have a $70,000 wholesale flip profit built into that. So if that means that our break-even point is $630,000, selling it at $680,000 is still good. We're still going to make a $50,000 profit on that project. So that's kind of where, for us, like, we're not getting that top dollar. We're not even really getting asking very often, unless it's just something spectacular. We did just get asking on that $1.1 million custom property in Prescott, which that one was fantastic. That was a 3-week close. But again, I think that was because that property was so insanely custom. Like, and so that's kind of what I was going to kind of roll into. Obviously, we're going to talk about these just these properties right now, but I think personally, and again, I'm jumping the gun, Chris. I'm jumping the gun. Don't let me go there. But again, I think you got to do more custom stuff. This is what I'm going to talk about to be able to make sure you're hitting those numbers.
Yeah. So let's back to your inventory that we just talked about. I mean, you've got 7 under contract, but how good of a run did you have the last 2 years?
I mean, come on. Yeah, it was stupid. It was stupid. You could list anything and it would sell. It would sell over asking, even if it wasn't like a great property, which is ridiculous.
So if you
but
have to,
that's not here anymore. Like that's just what people have to realize. When you're flipping properties, you got to be more careful. You have to start underwriting things more safely, because you're going to have so much more competition. I had a property sent to me yesterday that I started underwriting, and I was looking at, and we seriously contemplated buying it. And then I started looking at the actives in the neighborhood. There was 8 actives in the neighborhood that were all within the same size, within the same like price point of what we're going to be looking to get for it. So it's just like, I turned it down because it's like, I'm not going to buy a property that I have 8 properties in a square block that I'm going to be competing with. So I think, again, it's just kind of comes down to like making sure that you're being more safe and more careful with properties that you're looking to purchase. So, I mean, I'm not going to buy a property that I've got 8 properties that I'm going to be fighting against to get a property sold, even though I know our product's going to be the best. Give me an area where I'm going to have 2 or 3 actives where I'm going to be fighting against rather than 8.
Yeah. So there's a couple nuggets for you guys. Obviously, when you comp your houses, you can see the number of actives when you pull up MLS. You can also add the days on market as one of your columns in your comps, right?
Yes.
And if it's still averaging under 30, win. If it's averaging 70, 80, 90 or above, loser.
No, exactly. So, but yes, I mean, just the fact that, again, let's say we listed 11 properties and we got 7 under contract and 4 active. We've been dropping the prices regularly on our flips. There's no doubt about it. Obviously not what you want to do, but again, you gotta just move properties that you think maybe don't have the greatest chance of selling. One thing that Jake and I noticed too is that we bought a property. We tried something a little bit different, a little outside of our comfort zone, and we did a flip in what's it called? Catalina. So it's like northern Tucson. And we're going to lose money on that flip. There's no doubt about it. And we don't do that often, but I mean, by the time that it's all said and done, we've had to lower the price 5 different times since the market hit and everything. And we're just noticing that there's not a lot of buyers in this area. And so by the time it's said and done, we're probably going to lose somewhere between 10 and 40 grand. Just depends on what we have to go to on the property. But again, so just make sure you're being more safe with your buying box. Make sure you're being more safe with, the areas, the price points that you're looking at. And obviously just make sure you're also running your numbers really safe when it comes to your rehabs. I mean, if you're thinking, okay, hey, yeah, maybe I'll just do like a light remodel on this property. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to cut it anymore. Light remodels, lipstick on a pig, like that doesn't do it anymore. It did it a couple months ago, did it 2 to 3 months ago, where you could throw something on and you could do all right on it. But you just got to keep in mind, with the extended competition you're going to have now, you're going to have someone that's going to blow your property out of the water unless you're doing, some full renovation, which that's what we have gotten to now, is the point where every property we're taking down, we're doing every single step, where we're doing the landscape. We're making sure the roof is good. We're making sure it has proper heating and cooling. We're making sure it's got dual pane windows. We're making sure it's got those finishing touches to it that are going to, separate it from all the other properties. And so I think that's the reason why our properties are still moving, even if they are under what we were originally asking. But for those of you that are not doing that, and that you are just saying, well, I'll just kind of paint it and throw some new carpet in, I personally don't believe that's going to work anymore.
But you talked about your 25 properties, and like you said, you got 7 of them. You put 12 on the market, you got 7 under contract. But when a market shifts, you have to readjust your inventory. Those 25 properties were bought at a different market, right?
Yes,
So now
yeah.
and,
They were
and
bought. They were bought with a certain number in mind of them being sold at, and they're not being sold at that number anymore.
yeah, but like you said, you had a 10% profit built in. You didn't get that 10% profit. You still got a profit. But
Right.
now, as you recycle your inventory, you're buying with a number that, is going to get you back to that 10% inventory, or
Exactly.
not inventory, margin. So,
Market. Yeah. Right. Right.
yeah,
No. Exactly. So yeah. So that's what we've been doing. Is back to that point now is that the properties that we're looking at purchasing moving forward, we are making sure that at that 10, realistically, we're even probably running things closer to 15% profit margin now, because again, we're just taking into account that if the market does continue to drop, that we have to be safe enough to where we don't want to just lose that full 10%. So we're more so kind of running things as a 15% profit margin now. And that extra 5% gives you a little buffer. And you know what I mean? Like for us, where we're at is like, okay, worst case scenario, you lose that full thing. Well, guess what? We were able to keep our crews busy for that time frame. We didn't have to lose them, because I mean, if you have good contracting crews, and I'm saying like good in the sense where they do exactly what you're asking them to do, they do it in a good time frame. You need to do whatever you can to hold on to them.
yeah.
And so we're not trying to lose our contractors. We have 4 or 5 really good crews that we absolutely love. And so we want to do whatever we can to make sure that we keep them. And if keeping them means that you're going to take on a project that maybe you only make 10 grand on a full on flip, to us, that's worth it in this market right now.
Yeah, I'm curious about the Catalina down in Tucson. Did you have to go find a new crew, or did you send one of your crews down
We
there?
sent we sent one of our crews. One of our main crews went down there. They took care of it. They did a really good job on the rehab. But we've spoken with some of the agents in the area, and they just said there's just not a lot of buyers that are looking for like an outskirts of a town area. I think that right now you're seeing a lot more people that are wanting to be back in that sense of like being closer into town. They kind of like that feel rather than like the kind of being in the suburbs in a sense.
Yeah, you gotta throw all the outliers. If it backs
Yeah.
power lines, probably shouldn't buy it. If it backs a
A
road,
major road.
probably shouldn't buy it.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
those
yeah.
all those fundamentals that you might have forgotten over the last 2 years. But talking percentages, we did have someone ask, "What are you buying at ARV? 70% minus repairs." I'm actually still buying it 65%, 65 to 70%, including the repairs. So rough numbers, if it's 100 grand, I'm still shooting for like 65 to 70 grand is my price.
For sure. Chris, I got a question for you. What channels have you funneled more marketing funds towards over the past 6 to 12 months?
My marketing budget hasn't really changed. I'm just, and I guess luckily my outreach is growing because there's less buyers, right? There's just not as many people out there hunting for deals like I am. My dispo list is 11,000 people, so I kind of got an advantage over a lot of other people, right?
For sure, for
I,
sure.
the funny thing is I added a VA a year ago in July, just building my Phoenix list. Why did I do that? I'm like, because when things turn bad, the person with the bigger list generally wins,
Yeah, for sure.
Because
For
it
sure.
takes one buyer, and if I'm sending it to 11,000 people, then that helps. But yeah, so I'm still doing cold calling. Agent outreach is obviously a big part of our business.
Oh yeah.
We're not necessarily pay per click. We co-market with people, so we're out there using a bunch of different avenues to get deals. But direct to seller is just cold calling, just like
You guys do a lot of direct to agent, right?
a lot of direct to agent. And then
Would you say that's your main marketing?
Yeah, it's probably direct to agent is our main marketing, and then direct to seller we do through other guys like you and co-wholesaling. But yeah, we're out there plugging away and beating the streets. We're not doing what we did from January through May. And maybe we're only doing 50, 55% of what we did January through May. But
For sure.
We're still making money and keeping the doors open. So that's all that matters.
No, exactly. That's kind of, we're in the same boat right now where it's like, in this market right now, you kind of do what you can, you do what it takes to just keep things plugging away, keep things moving, until you kind of have more of a, at least for us, we're kind of doing it until we have more of a sense of really knowing what's truly going on in the market, Okay, I got another question for you, Chris. Do you find that building more custom properties leads to less price sensitive customers?
Well, yeah, obviously, there's people out there that have the money to buy these properties, and interest rates are, what's that 10-year? I like to give people that number, right? I keep pounding it in there, right? The Fed rate has gone like this, right? There's been no up and down. It's been hike, hike, hike. The 10-year actually hit just above 4 or 2.6, which had I got quoted 5% for a rental property. So that would
5% on a rental?
On a rental in Florida. So
holy shit, that's really good.
So to give you an idea, and that was 3 days ago. To give you an idea, for a new homeowner, that's probably 4.5. So
yeah.
I mean,
that's insane.
It's going like this, right? But you got to remember, mortgages are, the 10-year hit 3.5 and dropped to 2.6 2 days ago. So
yeah.
I mean, if you're not reaching out to your, let's just see, I think it popped up today to 2.75. Yeah, it's sitting at 2.748 right now, and it's unchanged for the day. So, like I said, it hit 2.65, so it's down 10 points. So maybe if you called your mortgage broker today, you're probably, if that 4.5 is probably a 4.6 today. But guess what? It's not the 5.5 it was in June. So
wow, I didn't know that. That's really impressive. I didn't know that.
But understanding that the Fed rate is short-term money. Your credit cards, your car loans, your business lines of credit. It's not the housing market. Now, do they tend to go side to side? But no. The 10-year, which is what it's based on, was the highest point was at June 13th, and it was 3.483. So call it 3.5. And it hit 2.65. So it was down 0.9 as of 2 days ago. Now it's only down 0.75 of a point. But
right.
That is, important part of understanding when you can get mortgage loans. And if you can buy a house at 70 cents less than you could, or 30% less than you could 2 months ago, guess what? That 4.5 versus a 3.5 is a wash.
Right. No, for sure. So we had a comment on here, Chris. We had a comment from Lauren Rosen, who she has been
she's in Vegas right now. She's drinking.
She's been a guest on here with us before. So she said what she does is she takes the highest comp and reduces it by 10%, and she uses that as her value when she's buying. So that's very, I think, in my opinion, that's very similar to what a lot of people are doing right now. And I think that what's kind of interesting is that by doing that, by taking that 10% hit and reducing that, I think that's kind of bringing those numbers to exactly what you had said. That's bringing those numbers very similar to what the numbers were in, the last 2 quarters, let's say the last half of 2021.
If you want to listen to the Crawford report, and that guy all he does is pull stats, said, we lost all the appreciation in 2022. And this is about 3 weeks ago. Lost all the appreciation in 2022, and we're back to December 21 pricing. So, and just like you said 10 minutes ago, we saw probably a 10% increase in the spring, or call it the first 5 months of 2022. So we all kind of just said the same thing. It's down 10%.
Right. No, exactly. So heck yeah. And then, just a couple tips and pointers of things that we're doing for those of you that are out there that maybe are flipping, that are at least, thinking about getting into flipping. Again, I know I already hit on the fact of just like making sure that you're not just, throwing lipstick on a pig. do those things that take your property over the edge, right? And again, it doesn't have to be expensive things. It's just got to be those things. One thing that we notice is that's a huge one for us is making sure that we're doing the landscaping. Like it doesn't, maybe it's an extra $5,000, but again, that's going to be one of those things where if your buyer is looking at your property and another property and they see this property that looks nice and it's got the landscaping done, but maybe your property is nice, you're like, you have to do those things now. You just have to, because you have too much competition. With all of the extra competition, you got to stand out. And an extra $5,000, you'll probably get it back dollar for dollar on your buy price. And so it's like, just make sure that when someone's walking through it, that you're not leaving many things for them to be like, ooh, we're gonna have to come in and do that. We're gonna have to come in and do this. So another one, like I'm assuming you're probably already doing this if you're doing flips right now. But if you don't know, put stainless steel appliances in your property. Like if you were leaving, old black or white appliances, do not leave them. Like you have to do stainless steel. That's going to be one of those things where a buyer is going to come in and say, oh, this looks beautiful. We don't have to touch this. So, I mean, that's a big one. Like I said, another big thing that we're doing on every single property is the major things, the roofs, the windows. We're making sure they're dual pane windows. We're making sure that the AC unit is new, that at least that it's, within the last 10 years and working really nicely. So you don't want these people to come in and have to worry about those things, because those are major issues that they are going to have to worry about if anything goes wrong with them. A $5 to $8, maybe even $10,000 hit that your average buyer is not going to be okay with having to replace. If they have a roof that is in bad shape, a lot of times a roof on a bigger home can be $10,000. And so those are things that you got to make sure that you're taking care of. Work it into your numbers, be safe with them, and make sure that you're leaving your buyer with a good feeling when they're walking away with their property.
And just a side note to that, you got to also remember when some of these buyers are coming to the table, they have their down payment money, and their down payment money, gets them into the house. But if they have a roof to repair for 15 grand, or this to repair, add the double pane windows and all that kind of stuff, that's money that they have to save up and do that later on down the road. So
100%.
They'd rather have it financed into their current mortgage versus 15 grand for this out of pocket, 5 grand.
Yes, exactly. 100%. So just keep those things in mind, that when you are flipping, make sure you're taking care of those things. Some of the extra things that we're doing, that a lot of other people are not doing, that we're doing just to make sure that our properties, are viewed as a nicer commodity versus some of these other ones. Or, we're doing open shelving. We're doing nicer, backsplash tiles. We're doing, we're doing nice tile showers, nice tile in the showers. We're staging the properties. Staging the properties alone makes a huge difference. If a buyer is going to walk through two exactly, the same properties in the sense of what they are, if they see one that has no furniture in it and one of them that's beautifully, furnished and everything and staged, I'm telling you, they're going to pick the one that's staged, because they're going to be able to kind of start thinking to themselves like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, kind of cool for us to put our couch here, and that'd look nice for us to put, these cool bar stools around the island here, and whatever it might be. You're making it much more, realistic, and you're making it much more, I guess they're able to kind of like envision what they want out of the property versus the property that's sitting empty with no furniture in it. And again, that's a small expense. It might be, I think the average, we have kind of in-house staging. So, I mean, Chris, do you know what's the average staging company? About $3,000 maybe for a property for a smaller home?
I mean, no one's staged in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But that's generally what, unless you're doing, some kind of monster house or something. So
Right.
And generally what they do is they budget in the price for 60 days. And then, if it goes past that, they start, hitting you monthly.
Yep. So, I mean, again, if you can just put another $3,000 into your expenses when you're kind of running the numbers on the property. I know it's not fun, but again, it's one of those things where you're going to get it out of it. There's no doubt about it. If you don't get an extra $3,000 out of your sale price because you had it staged, then you might want to revisit your staging company.
Yeah. Well, if you have any other questions, shoot them our way. We'll keep watching the chat box for the rest of the day. We had another question. So 200K ARV becomes 180 after the 10%, and then times 0.7 minus repairs. Once again, I'm not doing the minus repairs. So it'd be, basically 70% of that 180. So I'd basically knock 60 grand off it. So if it was worth 200 before, I'd be shooting at like a 120.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. I couldn't agree more. That's a big difference. I mean, I know it doesn't seem like much. I know, 10%, but I mean, when you're running your numbers, as we've mentioned before, 10%, if you're running your profit margins at 10%, that's your entire profits gone, just like that. Just like that. So just be careful when you're running your numbers. We are running them much, much, much more safe, much more carefully. Like I said, we're probably doing about 15, about running it at a 15 profit margin based on that 10% drop already. So again, and that's just to kind of, give ourselves that little cushion for if there is another drop.
Cool. Any other comments you want to tell these guys before we?
Let's see.
Oh, and if anybody has any topics for next week, we'd love.
Oh, Dave is on. Sorry, I love Dave.
What's Dave? What's Dave?
Dave is a friend of mine. I love Dave. He's a great guy. Dave, miss you, man. I'm gonna give you a call actually after we're off of this. Anywho, yes. Anyone else got any questions? Shoot them our way. Chris, you got anything else?
Nope, that's it. Next week is our 20th episode. We'll hunt around and get someone cool to jump on here with us.
And in 2 weeks, we're gonna get Chris's son Jack on with us. That's gonna be awesome. I'm excited. Jack is Chris's son. He runs a lot of the dispo side for Chris now, and he's become one of my close friends, and I love that guy. He's basically a miniature Chris.
You know what's funny? It's kind of interesting. My son gives me shit. It's funny. Right? So here is Investor Lift. Right here. Here's the Investor Lift. Investor Lift is a people that rates the buyers, right, in Phoenix. There you go.
Okay.
Jack is right here. He's like number 4 on the list.
Okay.
I'm like number 6.
Oh, Chris, you let your son take you over. Love it. That's awesome.
All righty. So we'll be back next week around 2:00 Tuesday.
Heck yeah. I like it.
See you guys.
All right. We'll see you guys later, Chris.
Yeah.